So without further ado, I'm going to go sit down, just like the Joe Franklin show, and just, my guest is sitting right here. Robert, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
Sorry, how you doing?
A long time.
I got a little tongue-tied there.
That's all right.
That's normal on my show.
There you go. Okay.
So it's kind of weird not doing it without an audience, but first time for everything. We try it.
That is true.
How long
my pleasure.
How long has it been? I'll shake your hand again.
Well, let's see. We first met in 1997 at the Richie Rano Kiss Expo.
The Kiss convention, it was.
Yeah, that's right. So here we are 27 years later.
Yeah, Richie Rano, shout out to Richie Rano. Richie Rano's a great guy.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So back then when you were at the Kiss convention, you were plugging, I guess, the remasters of all the Kiss records, right? Or no?
Well, that first convention, the 97 convention, was the first time I had published a book. My company, Studio Chikara, published a book called The Kiss Years by Barry Levine.
Yeah.
So everybody was excited because it was the first time Barry had ever done a Kiss Expo. So we flew him out from L.A. He stayed with us the entire day. I'll never forget that day as long as I live. There was a line all day long to get Barry's autographs on the book and photos that people bought. And
I got that book.
Yeah. It was a terrific time. Let me tell you, it was literally months after the reunion. You know, the Kiss played the Garden for 4 nights, and a few months later, that was the first expo after the reunion. So it was just it was a magical time.
And and we were lucky to relive it from when we were kids. And it seems, I mean, what is it? So 26 in 2026 is going to be 30 years, right?
No, 2024 is. Oh, you mean since the reunion?
Yeah.
You mean yes?
It's crazy.
Yeah. You can't imagine that much time has passed. I mean, I remember those days like yesterday.
And when we were younger, those 17 years took forever.
Exactly. It was like, when you think about the original Kiss stopped in 1979, 1980, flash forward to 96, that's 16 years, right?
Yeah.
With a very long time. And now it's like, oh my gosh, how much time has passed since then?
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of hard to believe sometimes.
It's crazy. So since we're on the subject, and we'll do that, and we'll move on to the next stuff. Talk about how you got the job being the consultant of the remastering of all the original Kiss albums.
Yeah. Well, make a long story short, what had happened was a lot of people collected all different types of Kiss memorabilia, everything from the dolls, the toys, the garbage cans, so on and so forth. So my big thing was the vinyl. I would go to all the different record shows in the neighborhood. I'm originally from Long Island, so, Amityville used to have a record show, Massapequa had record shows, and all the different record stores of the day. I would go there constantly, look through the used sections, and every time I'd see a variant on the vinyl, whether it was the blue Casablanca label with the silver lettering, or the blue with the black lettering, the tan with all the camels, the tan without the camel. I mean, it was crazy. Even back then, it was like, I can't believe all these different versions of the same records were out. Well, back then there were multiple record factories across the country that would make the albums at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So not every factory followed the same guideline as far as their labeling, as far as their stamping, so on and so forth. So if you bought a Kiss record in California, more than likely it looked different than the one you would buy in New York, So, and we learned this later on, but it was interesting that, for instance, the first Kiss album that didn't have Kissin' Time on it, that was a big collectible pretty much since the beginning.
Yeah.
But as time went on and we bought different variants of these records, it was funny. You'd see the Kiss logo on top small, and you'd see the Kiss logo to the right in big black letters. I mean, it was just, and you got to remember, every time, these albums would sell out, they repressed them and put them back into circulation. So they'd make changes along the way. So just finding that out organically was such a fun experience.
So long story short, getting to this, how did Gene offer you that gig?
Well, okay, so what happened was when Alive 3 came out, Kiss did a signing at the Tower Records in Carl Place.
Yeah.
And I knew that was happening, so what I did was I wrote up a report. I said, these are all the mistakes, these are all the variants, why at that time Polygram that bought Casablanca, they re-released everything, but they did it in such slipshod shape that it was horrible. You'd buy literally double platinum, thinking you're still going to get that aluminum foil stamped album, gatefold with the little award. You bought it in '85 or '86. It was 2 records shoved into his sleeve.
Yeah, it was nothing.
It was like, it was that nonsense. But what really got me upset was I had bought the polygram version of the first Kiss album, and all of a sudden there's the live version of Nothing to Lose taken from Alive.
On the first album.
On the first album.
Yeah, that was a mess up.
It was a total mess up. And, that's when I started calling Polygram on a regular basis, writing them letters, so on and so forth. They wouldn't respond. So when Kiss did the signing at Carl Place, I asked Larry Mazer, I said, hey, I have this envelope for Gene. He goes, what's in it? I said, he's really going to want to read this. So Larry went to Gene, spoke to him for a few seconds. I handed him the envelope. He asked me what it was. I said, it's all the mistakes that Polygram has made in the Kiss catalog up to date. He and Paul Stanley looked at each other. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, it's all in there, you'll see. And my contact information was in there and everything. So after Larry Mazer had called me once or twice, then I got a phone call from Kiss's business guy, who wound up also being, coincidentally, was Paul's psychiatrist. And, I get a job interview over the phone, basically, before I even knew there was a job. He asked me a bunch of questions, and then about a few days later, Gene called my office. And I thought people were playing around with me.
Like
so
everybody
this is a big
does.
joke. Yeah, especially back then. This is before social media. This is before most people had easy access to a group.
The Jerky Boy days.
Yeah, exactly. So Gene was really on the phone, and we kept in touch. And next thing I know, I'm finding out about the reunion tour before anybody else did. And at the Kiss convention in 1995, the way I found out I was hired, Gene said it in front of everybody that day, right? About 10 minutes before Peter Criss came on stage.
Wow.
So for a 25-year-old kid, that was like
that's
being a
big,
candy
bro,
store.
for someone your age.
Yeah, it was a dream come true. I thought my life just went on this surreal trajectory, So.
See, everybody out there in TV land or wherever you are, all the 10 viewers that are watching the show, I love saying that. All the Kiss albums back in the day, they started everything that they came with posters. They all had a surprise in them. So, but then when Casablanca sold out the Polygram when Neil Bogart got sick in the early '80s, and then Polygram took it over, and he said they just put them out. They didn't have no care in them. But when he did them over, they were remastered. They were fixed. Everything was what the album was. It was so really nice to see when we got them. It was like being a kid again. And then years later, they re-released the albums. But that was a big thing. My hat goes out to you. Kudos to you.
Thank you, sir.
And if there's a studio audience, everybody be clapping right now.
Well, I also would like to give a special thanks to, my dear work friend, colleague Joe Palmecchio, who unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. He and I worked together at Sterling Sound during that whole process, and it was just... I'm sad to have lost him because he was a terrific guy to know.
I didn't know him. I heard a lot of great things about him.
He went on and opened up his own studio at some point, his engineer studio. But it was I was working with this guy for 3 days a week for months, getting everything right, and it was just it was funny how certain albums, the master tapes would be in perfect shape, and then you took another album like Hotter Than Hell, open it up, and dust and flakes are flying all over the place.
See, me and you gotta come on another day, and we just gotta do a whole Kiss segment, because we could talk forever about Kiss. And before we get off that subject, you got an award for you wanted the best. You got the best album, right?
Yes. When the album sold 500,000 copies, it was it was granted gold status. And one day I went into the office to do my work, and I was pleasantly surprised with the gold record award.
Was it RIAA?
Yes.
What does that stand for?
Recording Industry Artists of America.
Okay, there you go.
It's been a long time, I'm not sure.
Yeah, listen, it's been a short time for me, but I still can't even remember.
Yeah.
But that was a great record. Great pick.
Thanks. That record, you could do a whole show on that record.
Yeah. Listen, as I said, we could just keep going on, but you have a lot of stuff going on. Now, listen, you're currently an executive producer of Power Records, and you got a new band, The House of Terror?
Well, it's a new album, actually. It's basically...
Talk about that.
Okay, so in the 1970s, this was records like this, Halloween sound effects were all the rage, and this was one of my favorites of all time. And it turned out, I didn't know this at the time, but it was written and drawn by the legendary Neil Adams, who, if you know comic books, you know Neil Adams for Batman, the Avengers.
I know the name, but I'm not too hip. Yeah. Only one I know is Stan Lee.
Hey, listen, you know, Neil was a force in the comic book industry. He accomplished so much, and you know, this is actually for you. Merry Christmas.
Oh, you're the best. Yeah, Thank you so much. Let's get a screenshot of this. Well, that looks pretty cool with your mic.
So that's a promo
Stay right
version.
There. I'll turn it around. Sorry. And what, do you got a comic book in there?
Yeah.
And you did that too, or no?
Well, Neil Adams wrote and drew that. And,
all right, cool.
You know, so we packaged the 40th anniversary edition. You can tell it's Vampire Blood Red.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, bro.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
You're currently a consultant for an all-new color with music for children, right?
Yeah. You know, basically, it's funny. Even though rock and roll pretty much dominated my life in my teens through recently, I started out listening to classical and children's music. I mean, I think most kids did, you know. So a dear friend of mine, Brian Washington, he wanted to perform, and he wrote his own songs and everything, and he put together this beautiful children's record that's definitely reminiscent of the Disney and Peter Pan records
from back in the day.
Yeah,
the good stuff.
Yes. So, you know, when he came to me with this opportunity, I said, listen, I'll be happy to be a consultant on it, and it's coming out in December. By the time the show airs, it'll be out already, and I'm very excited about that. So 2 new albums in 1 year, which is not
That's
not
good,
a bad
bro.
thing.
Listen, you're keeping yourself busy, and I know you got a 30th anniversary or something special coming up. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, April 2024 is Studio Chikara's 30th anniversary, which I cannot believe. You know,
it seems like nothing. It seems like yesterday.
Yeah, where 30 years ago? I don't know. You know, but we're playing some nice stuff. Big John Hart, when he passed away, you know, I'll be publishing his memoir, so that's going to be coming out in 2024. I've been slowly but surely working on my book as well, Mike History, so we hope to get that out within the 30th year.
So listen, that's almost our time. You want to talk a little more about the John Hart memoir book?
Sure. Okay. So basically, John and I were working on this up until the point he passed away, sadly. We were also working with a fellow by the name of Tony Mann, who conducted a lot of the interviews with some of the old Kiss Road crew and other people that were involved in the book at the time. So he's a contributor to the book as well. So right now we're just kind of crafting it so that's a complete narrative. That's the purpose of it. So.
Well, I kind of got tongue-tied with you before. Pope culture historian. What's the exact...
Pop culture historian.
Right. Pope fiction. Yeah, pop culture historian.
Right. So basically, you know, I'm a child of the 70s. So, you know, I'm the last generation of kids, you know, before video games. You were born into the world of video games. So my mother was, you know, a wonderful lady, but she sat me in front of the TV a lot. And I got to watch all these different TV shows, and anything I liked, I just threw myself 110% into it.
Got you.
So I became very knowledgeable about certain things at a very young age. And, you know, during my career, I would say, hey, let me try different things to see if people are interested. And, you know, Sesame Street was kind enough to let me package their old school CD set, you know, a few years back. And I said to myself, you know what, I could take this knowledge. You know, I have a lot of minutia in my head that I never get to use. You know, I've tried to be on Jeopardy a few times, didn't work out. But I said, you know, I can use this minutia for good. So,
but Robert, this is what we're gonna do, buddy. I want you back once the book comes out.
Okay.
And then we'll take this whole, because we missed a couple of things that people don't know about. And we'll put one less guest, and we'll do like a whole half hour on everything, so we can really dig into everything, okay?
That'd be terrific.
Where can people find you on social media?
Okay, so basically you can find me on www.studiochikara.com. That's STUDIOCHIKARA.com. Or you could just, you know, X Twitter at Rock and Rob Conte, or Facebook Robert V. Conte. You'll find me.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, we needed a P.O. box, and that's it.
Oh, yeah. The days of having to wait for the mail. It was
Robert,
my pleasure, man.
Listen,
good to see you.
You're a gentleman. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, absolutely.
All right.